Okay, looks like the recording has started. Okay, thank you. So let's start today's session. So I'll give you a couple of links here. So this is my GitHub account, and this is my GitHub account, and you will be able to grab the you'll be able to grab this content here. And today's session is under the speaker series. So the documentation, notes, everything I have covered there. So let's see this. So what we will be doing today. So we have an resource, Azure AI resource, that's a multi-service account. So with this multi-service account, first we will test the multi-service account. So if I come back to this one, so we are trying to do a analyze, but what endpoint we are hitting is not as important as what is that we are going to do today. Okay, just understand that what if I have an Azure account and I try to read this. So it said accepted. So when I go to the header, it gives me where I can get the analysis of this. Again, I'm coming back to this one, and I will paste the GUID there, and then it gives me the analysis of the image which it has analyzed. So this is the simple thing which we are doing. So now the question arises, what if I always need to go and hit the Azure? Can I have it as part of my containers? So that's where this session starts. So definitely we will be able to have our own container here on our local, and we will be able to communicate with this container. The only thing is, still you should have your Azure account. You should have your Azure account, as well as you should be able to have the Azure account, and you should be able to uh, talk to your local container. But for the billing purpose, it has to come in. Hello, Ashish. Okay, so you should be able to create this container on your local box and communicate with that. The only thing is, still you need to have a Azure subscription and an Azure account, and we will be able to go and talk to that. You'll be able to go and talk to this uh, account which you have created on the Azure from the billing perspective. So if you don't have account and you don't have the multi-service Azure service, and you can't use this one. So if you come here, so suppose we are using this AI Vision service, you can come and see this. It says that this is the AI Vision service image. And to start this image, what you have to do is you have to give your endpoint and you have to give your API key. If you don't give this endpoint and your API key, it will not work. So that is the catch there. Okay, so let's see this how to do that. Just give me a minute. I want to delete something which I don't need it. So this is not needed. Just give me 1 minute, guys. Let me put this on delete, and I'll come back. I don't need that because we are working on a previous one. Okay, so this is the one. So now first thing is, for us to use any of this AI services container, the required parameters is endpoint, and another thing is the keys. Okay, so let me come back over here and collect those two things. Keep it ready. And the second point is we need to have the container. We definitely need to have the container runtime. We can do it in 3 ways. One is we can have this deployed on our local containers, and then we can try in Azure Container Instance, and then we can try it in Azure Kubernetes Service. We'll try all these things. Okay. So now, first let me come back here. This is the image which it says that we need to pull. So let me come back here, copy this. I think this is the same command which we used it here, docker pull. You can see all the way read 3.2 model 2022-0430. Just I executed this first command, and it says that I already have the latest image, because the previous session I did this last month. The problem was I didn't realize that I refreshed my PC and I executed. It took more than 15 minutes. I have to stop the session in between. So now that is ready. So let's come back to the documentation. Uh, okay. So before that, we need to get the keys of this one. So for that, what I will do is I'll come back to here and I'll say that easy account show. So when I do an easy account show, it shows that that's my Azure sponsorship and Microsoft Azure sponsorship account. And this is the resource group. And this is the AI service account. So I paste this and then I execute this to give me the list of keys. I can execute this command. So when I execute this command, it goes and it brings the list of keys. So these are two list of keys. So we have that one also. Now then we did the next step. What we did is we pulled the image here. You can see we did the image pull. The image is also ready. Now next thing is we need to execute. So for execute, what we need to do is we need to have a API key. All the time we can't carry the API key. So what we do is we'll go and we'll copy the first one and we'll store it in a variable. And the next thing is billing endpoint. This is from the billing perspective, it needs it. So if you don't have this account, so you will not be able to hit this endpoint. So it's of no use, even though you have an endpoint. So I'll paste it there. And that's the endpoint. Now we have both API key and billing endpoint. So after doing that, what we will be doing is we will execute this in a interactive mode. That means we'll not get the control to ourselves, but the terminal holds the control. That's what we are saying, that remove this container interactive. What is the port? So if you come and see this here, it has created a container, and that container is Azure Cognitive Service 3.2. So now you can see that it shows it is executing on 5000, but my host port is 5005, but internal port is 5000. So now we see this, it is holding here. Now if I go back to this one and come here, you can see that I was able to hit this container and get the subscription details and also the documentation of this. If I come back over here, you can see this, and it is executing, and the privacy statement and everything they are giving it here. But what is important is we are able to hit the container, as well as we are able to go and see the description of what APIs are being exposed. Now understand that we are not hitting the Azure resources. We are not hitting the Azure resources. What we are doing is we are hitting only the local container. You're not coming to Azure at all here. You can see that. What we are doing is we are hitting our local container. Now I will kill this. I did Control C. I killed it. Let's give it a minute, and then we'll see. OK, now if I go back to the browser and try to refresh this, now you see this, it can't be reached. So this is a proof that we were hitting the local container. Now see this, when I did RM, that means I instructed that create the container, and as soon as you're done, kill that container. So the container has been dismantled. Okay, that is interactive mode. That means it doesn't give us a control. So there is a second way we can execute is we can execute using -D, that is the detached mode. So I come back to this one, and now here I paste it and I execute this one. Just give me a minute. I'll have a glass of water. Now see this. Now we have created a container out of the image. And now you see this, that's again the port, and rest of the configuration are same. The only thing is, instead of interactive, I specified as I want to run it as part of the detached. Now if I see do a Docker PS, now you see this, the first 8409, 840916, whatever the output we get as part of this command, that is the container ID. You see this, the container ID. So you will see this exactly these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 characters. I mean, technically this is the container ID, but you can recognize with first 3 letters or 4 letters also, but it's not a suggested way. We should use the entire container ID. So here the container is there, and also we can come back and get into this. You see we got the similar information, and we can also do an exec into this, and we can type print working directory, and you see ls. You can see this all the DLLs which is making this container work. Everything is here inside this container. Okay, we went into the container and we tried that. Okay, so another thing is inspect. You can see that the API key is here, the arguments with which we started, uh, acceptance of the license, and the billing endpoint. Whatever the number of calls we make it to our local container, we are reaching the local container, but from the billing perspective, it goes and hits the endpoint. Okay, so that's one thing. Now we saw uh, few things. First is we saw how to speak to the Azure service which is hosted in Azure. We did that. And the second thing is we saw how we can retrieve the keys, and we'll be able to regenerate the keys also. Suppose if I want to go ahead and regenerate the key, I'll be able to regenerate. Suppose if I take this command, let me come back to this command because we are using key one. So I'll execute to generate the key two. Okay, so it goes and generates the key two. See, it is C. Now if I re-execute this command, you see the first key will remain same. So instead of C99, it is F6F. So anytime if my keys are exposed, I always come back and delete the entire resource or resource group, or I'll recreate it. That's the safest way. Once the demos are over, better to delete the resource and recreate it from scratch, the safest way to handle the things. And then we saw that we will be able to pull this. It comes around 8 GB or something. So suppose you are planning to do some demo, ensure that you have this image pulled it way in advance. You can't risk like how I risked for 15 minutes. I have to watch the screen and I said that we will close this bridge and we'll continue. And then what we have to do is we have to execute it. We need to have the API key and the billing endpoint. We need to execute this in a interactive mode. It should be IT. If you want it in a detached mode, it will be -D. So that's the only difference. So we want that to be in a detached mode. Okay. So what will happen is, suppose if I want to stop that, I can come and click on that button here, or I can execute the Docker command right from the command line, right from the command line itself. And again, you know that the ID, whatever the ID it has specified. Now see this, because we have given the parameter hyphen rm. That means as soon as I'm done, I close the container, it will dismantle the container. Okay. So let me again start that one. Now, if you see this time it is 65F9. If I do Docker PS, you see that 65F9F9. That's the ID of the container. Let me clear this and come back. We got another one. After that, what we will be doing is we have verified this also here in the browser. Now, the next point is we need to verify using the Postman. So the same call we will use it. Don't worry whether we know about this call or not. What is very important is how do you interact with Azure AI service in Azure, which is hosted in Azure, and how do you do it in local container? How do you do it in Azure Container Instance? How do you do it with Azure Kubernetes service? So that's the goal. So now, whatever two things we did it. So if you see the read analyze, what will happen is in this call 3.2, 4, it makes an asynchronous call. Sorry, synchronous call. It goes, analyzes and gives data. But here it makes, we have to make two calls. The first call, when you make the first call, let's understand this. Right now, if you see this, we are hitting the Azure AI service, which is hosted. We'll come back and do it the local Docker. But right now, I want to tell something. So when you give some image and asked it to analyze, what it says that accepted. I have accepted your request. It is working behind the scene, but it says that operation location. So what it's saying is go and get this report from this location. So now if I want to know what is the image result, I have to come back and remove this GUID. And again, I need to send it. So that is the result. So we need to make two calls. So similarly, we made with the Azure services. Now we are going to do it with the local Docker. So here, see this local Docker, it is HTTP localhost 5005. So the same thing just now we have seen here, HTTP localhost 5005. Now you don't, suppose you don't know how to do what all the parameters we need to know. Nothing to worry. You just come here to this localhost 5005, or because I have an issue in my port 5000. That's the reason I'm using 5005. If not, you have to use 5000 or whatever the port you like it. That's a host port, but the container port should always be 5000. Okay, please understand. The container port should always be 5000 because internally it is listening to the 5000 port. So the container port should always be 5000 because it is listening to 5000 port. See, this one should always be 5000 because the container within which we are running this service, AI service, it is listening to 5000. This should be 5000. This can be anything. I used 5005. Now we need to click on this service description, and inside that we want analyze. And you see that we have this analyze call. That's a post call you see, and you have a get call. So it gives us a pretty much good information on how to use this service. Okay. So you can come and see this post, and you click on this, it gives you a full URL also. And it gives the payload also. It says that what is that it is expecting. It is expecting a single parameter URL, a location where you have saved your image that should be accessible through internet. So if you see, we are using the localhost 5005, and then you can see vision v3.2 read analyze. That's the endpoint. And the payload should be URL and the location where we have this image. Now, if I come in here and then send this, it is sending to analyze. It said that it has accepted. See this, we saw something new logs here. And then we have to go to the headers, and headers, it has given this GUID. So let me copy that GUID and then come back to this local and replace that. This local in the sense local Docker. Now I got a analysis of this. Old ways will not open the doors for uh, new doors or something. Won't open doors in a new way. Okay. So that is the one which it did the analysis. So now we learned two things. One thing is how do we interact with the Azure AI service, and then how do you pull the Docker image? How do you retrieve the keys? How can you modify the keys? How do you create a Docker image? And how do you look at the documentation if you need some extra information or something else? You can come here, like you can go deep and see what all the things which it is doing. You can click on that. It clearly gives you the extra information, and also you can see analyze results, read. That's the second call. This one, result ID. Okay, this one, analyze result, and the results ID, the GUID technically. So we saw that. Okay. Now what we will be doing is we will be going ahead and creating another resource in Azure, and let's see that we'll deploy the same container inside the Azure Container Instance. Let me come back to this one. Let me come back to this. Just give me a minute. I don't want this also. I don't forget. If I don't delete it now, I'll forget afterwards. That was yesterday's demo. Okay. We are here. So now, how do we create Azure Container Instance? Okay, that's pretty simple. So we will come back here. So we did two things. Okay, quick recap in a minute. We executed with Azure instance, which is hosted in Azure. The second one is we created the AI service container on our local Docker, and we were able to communicate with that through browser. We were able to get the documentation and hit it through the Postman. Programmatically, definitely it is possible. Then it is possible with this. The next task is we need to do with this one. Okay. So what are the things which are needed for this one? So let's copy this and put it somewhere here at the bottom so that it will be easy for us to create the Docker container. So the first thing is we need to know the API key. So we need to know the API key and the endpoint, billing endpoint. We need to know this two things. So I will copy this, our API key, and also the endpoint I will copy. Okay, copy it both, billing endpoint, because we need it when we are creating the container instance. Okay, and we have everything. This should be accept, and friendly name we can give whatever we want. Okay, I will give this as a friendly name as 002. Okay, so let's start. Inside the resource group, I click on create and ACI container instances. And we'll go and we'll provision this. So I give the name as this one, ACI and US. That's a standard. And we will select other registry. And inside the other registry, we should specify this is a public image. That's the reason I was able to pull it. And let's change the size. Let's increase this to 9 GB. So one CPU with 9 GB. And then from the networking perspective, I want public access. The DNS name is this one. I would like to give it as a DNS name. Okay. And that's the DNS name. And I can any reuse. Okay, so let me keep it there itself, the DNS name. I don't want to change. And the next thing is the port should be 5000 because this is the container port. So what is that? The container within the container, it is listening. It's not listening to 80. We have seen in our Docker, it is listening to port 5000. So that is another change which we need to do it. So next we need to come to advanced. So there are some secrets we have to create. So the first secret is API key. So first mark it as secure. So it will not show what is the value. So need to mark it as secure. And the next thing is billing. That's the second one. Again, mark this as secure. And then copy this entire URL. The third thing is the agreement. We say that accept, but we don't need. It's a plain text, isn't it? It doesn't harm. So we can leave it as it is. So let's ensure that we change the port. We have given these secret values and we have specified the FQDN also. Now then let's come back and do a review and create of this one. Now let's give it a minute for let's give it a minute for it to give us a control. Okay, so this is a template which it is executing. So let's see. It will not take much time, guys, a minute or two, but we will come back and wait here. In the meanwhile, I just wanted to walk you through how it looks once it is created, because this is the one which I created previously. So I'll come back here. So if whatever the FQDN we specify, it will be here. And this is a public address with which we'll be able to access it. So I just wanted to show you with this. If I come in here and put it here, you will, oh, the port is 5000. You will see that we'll be able to access it. We'll come back to that one. Now, if you see the container perspective within this, you will see 5000. Okay, so we'll be able to access it with the port 5000. That means this is a public IP address. That means technically we are accessing this container instance. This is a port. This is a IP address 58.223 and 5000 is a port. We are able to access that. And the next thing is containers, number of containers. Here you can see the container image is this one, and you can get into the logs to see whatever we are hitting. It will show here. And in the properties, if you scroll down, you see that API key and billing, it doesn't show any value because in the drop-down list, we have selected that as a secure. So it ensures that those values are not being displayed. The license acceptance, we gave it a plain text. So it just shows as this one. Okay. And the port also, whatever we have given and the image, and this is the name. Okay. So let's see, did it deploy? Okay. That was success. So let's go back to the resource group And let us refresh this. So we have the 002, the one which we have created just now. So let me open that. You see, we have a fully qualified domain name. We have the public IP address. Here it is doing some traces. Now you can come back to the container. You can pretty much see the container. It started pulling and it brought the image and it started it. You can see the properties also. We gave 9 GB RAM, 1 vCPU, and we have API key and also the billing. The license we said accepted. So all is well. So let's go and try this guy. We can copy this and paste it here. And then there you go. You can access it using the FQDN fully qualified domain name, or you can access it uh, using the IP address. So again, you can see the read, the payload, and the results of the analysis, the image read. Okay. Uh, Sync analysis, another thing. So let's come back and let's go ahead and see with the IP address, public IP address. So I'll remove the fully qualified domain name from here and paste the IP address. Technically, we should see the same output. There's no change in the output. So whatever is this IP address which I copied, it's already in my clipboard. I'm copying it for the second time. Coming back to the Postman, and in the variables, there is this one, Azure Service Endpoint, which I'm pasting it here, HTTP // So I copy this and again I'll paste it here. Okay. Now we tried our AI service and we tried the local Docker. So this is the third way we are accessing it. Now see this, it is 4.156.26.115, 4.156.26.115. So now again, we are sending the same image for analysis. So now this time it is going and hitting the ACI. You can see that URL, right? So it has accepted. So let me copy that. And all I'm worried about is the GUID, because that's what I need to replace. So I can come back to the ACI, Azure Container Instance, and paste it here and click on send. And you see this again, it is 4.156.26.15 26.115. Okay, 4.156.26.115. So we got the result. So we have successfully able to do this in 3 different ways. One in Azure, second one in local Docker, third in Azure Container Instance. Now we'll try the fourth way. That is, can we host this in Azure Kubernetes Service? Okay. So let's come back and see this one, because this I will show in a pre-created one. I mean, we'll do the service, we will install it. But the thing is that I wanted to show you the fourth method also. We can do it in a Kubernetes service, but I'm not at this point of time. I'm doing it in a crude or unsecured way, but we should do it, maintain a lot of security. But just for a demo purpose, I'm doing it pretty simple. So you can see this is the Kubernetes service. If I want to create it, it will take 20-30 minutes for this. At least I'll do some of the highlights. Is that KubeNet, because this is a small network, and we see the workloads perspective. Here we have these things. So these are system resources, and this is the deployment. And we have pods over here. There are different pods and replica set and other things, but we will be using the services here. So this is the service. So I'll delete the service. We will come back and we will do this one. So if I do it from here, okay, see this one. It is terminating, and again it will recreate this service because it has got in its state and it needs to maintain those number of instances. So we can't do this one. Okay, where is this service? It has to recreate. Okay, let me come back to where did we see? It's in the deployment. So let me select this and delete the deployment also. Confirm the delete. I have deleted the deployment. Let me see the service. It is, oh, it has deleted. Okay, one second. So the deployment, it's not doing it. We will do it from the command line itself. Okay. So what will we be doing is we'll go and select this connect. And first thing is I need to set the subscription. I'll come back to the terminal and execute this command. ACI account set the subscription. That's set. And the second thing is what I'm telling is get the details of this cluster credentials. So what happens is if you come back here and in the Kubernetes, you can see that this Kubernetes will be connected to Kubernetes will be connected uh, uh, to the account which we specified in this credentials. Okay. So that being said, we are connected to this particular cluster from the terminal. So now what we will be doing is, let me refresh this. Okay, never mind. We'll go and we'll do it from here. So whatever the information which we have it here, let me show you the deployment YAML. So this deployment YAML is very simple. In the deployment, we said that uh, labels and other things we'll leave it. In the containers, we'll see that we have this read container. The port should be 5000. Accept the license is accept. We need to get this details, the billing endpoint. So copy this billing endpoint and I will paste it over here, the billing endpoint. Okay. And we also need the key. So that's how it validates that we are having a valid subscription. Okay. So we need 4 gig should be fair enough. And we are using the type of load balancer. That means I want to access it externally. So we gave the ports also, the 5000 ports. Okay. Now we need to do apply cube control apply. Oh, I should be there in this folder. So let me copy the path of this. And I do a CD. Now I'm here. Cube control apply file and deployment.yaml. So I execute this. So it's you see this, it has created the deployment and it has created the service. So now let's come back to this one and let's do a refresh and you see this, the load balance service, whatever the name which we have given. And also in the workload, we see That's the name read analytics deployment. We give that as a name here. And here read analytics service. So when you go back to the service, we'll see that read analytics service. So it's up since 33 seconds. The previous one I deleted. And we can see uh, some of the things, events, whatever it has happened here. And this is the YAML file, which we'll be able to see. Uh, Here you can go deep into this to find out like what port we have used, what is that ingress. It has got all the extra information. If you want to dig deep into the weeds, we can go and do. And if I come back to overview, you can see the port. That's a node port. There's a port and the target port. See this, there's the endpoint, and it starts with 10 dot. That means it's an internal endpoint, then IP, and this is an external IP. Okay, this is the cluster within which it got deployed. And you can see the pods, we said one. So that pod, it shows here. You can click on that. You'll get the pod pod running that. And also you can see this live logs if you want to track what is happening, if it is throwing an error, whether the particular service is up and running, or is it having any issues. You can do that particular analysis. You can see that, select it, and it starts flushing in. And again, we can have the Azure Monitor as well as Prometheus, Grafana, and send this to application insights. We can do all these things as an additional things. Okay. Don't have anything to search. It will take 1 or 2 minutes, but it will flush the logs. And similarly, you can see this events and this YAML file where it gives the additional details about this particular pod. Okay, you can get deep into the weeds of that one. Let's come back to service and ingress. This is the one. So if I click on this, so there you go. You saw that. And again, you can come back to the service description. You have everything. So what is very important is this particular piece is very important. So let me copy that and come back to, let me close all these things. So we will have less number of things to deal with. AKS, that's the number. Okay, this is the AKS one. I don't need the trailing slash. Okay, so let's do this one is ready, and I need to create a duplicate of this so that we'll be able to access it after that AKS. Let me fix this. Give me a minute. And this I will convert it as AKS. Okay, so now we have 4 sets. One with Azure Service, one with local Docker, one with Azure Container Instance. One we are doing right now is AKS one. So I'll remove that. That should be AKS endpoint. Okay, so let me copy that and come back over here and change this parameter. Okay, so let's do this AKS. The post, you can see this 48,216, 48,216, 186.71, 186.71. So let me hit the let me hit that. So it accepted. And once we come back to the headers, we'll see again, it gives the same IP address. And we copy this, go back to the the second get method, and the first one was post and second one is get. Now let's see, did it flush any logs somewhere? We went into this. I mean, I didn't enable the logs, but just wanted little curious to see, is it flushing out any logs? The volumes condition. Click on this. No, 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 no. I'm in the wrong place. Here, the pods. Clicked on the pods. And the logs. Let's see whether it is, because we did some activity. It's taking little time. I didn't enable, I don't remember enabling any logs, but I just wanted to see whether it is displaying the default logs or not. Okay. So by the way, let's do a quick recap. What are the things which we did it? So we did create a resource, multi-account Azure resource, and we were able to hit and do the analysis of an image. And the second thing is we brought the keys and we learned the PowerShell command to retrieve the keys and update the keys. And the second thing is we pulled the Docker image and then we were able to create the local instance of the service using interactive mode. That means the control will not come back to us. That holds the control. Then we did with the detached and then we verified it in the browser as well as used Postman to hit the Azure AI service, which is hosted inside our local Docker. The next thing is we have created Azure Container Instance and we used the image, and few things to notice is whatever the image is using the port, we need to use the same port here. You need to give the API key, the endpoint, the acceptance, and the FQDN. And we saw that why do we need the FQDN? And then we verified it in the browser as well as in the Postman. And another thing we saw is we went into the Kubernetes and we deleted the existing service. We did a kube, we connected to that kube cluster, Kubernetes cluster, and we executed the kube control command to apply the deployment. So it applied the deployment. We retrieved the public IP and we went into this and we saw the similar documentation. And then we were able to hit it through the Postman. Okay. So that is it from my side for this session. So hope you guys have learned something new. If you have some queries, we can discuss.